Hello, and welcome to another episode of Goblin Lore, presented to you by Hipsters of the Coast. In this episode, another Goblin Games, Hobbes Q and I will be talking about coffee on the plane of Ravnica. We wanted to get this episode out to you while we were still on the plane of Ravnica in Magic Story, so we hope you enjoy just a silly little look at something that was added to the background of the World of Magic lore. Without any further ado, let's get to the show.
Hello, Podwalkers, and welcome to a Goblin Games episode of the Goblin Lore podcast. I am your host, Hobbes Q. I can be found on Twitter at Hobbes Q, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Joe Redeman.
Hi, that's me. I'm very excited. This is a fun episode.
This is going to be a fun episode. Do you want to tell people where you're from, Joe?
Oh.
Or where to find you? Any of those?
Where I'm from? I guess I'm from Twitter is what you're meaning to say. And specifically where I can be found, which corner of Twitter I can be found at, is at Fyndhorn. That's F-Y-N-D Horn.
Yeah, we're here to talk today about coffee. I mean, specifically, a card inspired us to have this discussion because these Goblin Games. I do fully admit to being a highly caffeinated person.
As do I.
And
we call those HCPs. It's a technical term.
At least we're not ICP. Is that the clown posse?
That's the Rakdos.
Okay, that's the Rakdos. Well, we're not with the Rakdos today. I mean, we're coming at this from a little bit of an is it standpoint, at least from where the card comes from. So we want to jump off a discussion about coffee today, inspired by an actual in-game reference to our favorite beverage. Experimental Frenzy says, flavor text that says, turns out that coffee is the weird ant of invention, kind of being a play on a classic phrase of, what is it?
Oh my gosh.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
There it is.
That's what it is. So to play on that, so we get a little bit of a weird. I know I've actually saw some people online who do not like this flavor text because they felt that it was too kind of cheesy or kitschy and kind of.
And I think that's an interesting critique. I agree. I like this flavor text. I like the. We're going to talk a little bit more about how this does maybe fit into the world of Magic the Gathering, but I mean, kind of. I guess I consider myself sort of a flavor fundamentalist, I guess. When you see something on the cards, for the most part, like that's about as close to canon as we get, any definitive sort of thing in Magic. And so I kind of like that we can see an element of the real world in the game, in Magic the Gathering, and can see a bit of our own habits in there. But I do understand, I was listening to a Star Wars podcast the other day, actually, that said, that was talking about like jokes that border on real world references, and this sort of pushes in that space. And some people have said, like, yeah, that takes me out of that world, and so I can get the critique. I don't really agree with it in this situation, but I understand it, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can understand it. It is kind of silly, but I mean, you're also talking to a diehard Foglio fan that will take kind of some of that goofy cartoony art and cartoony kind of niche and kind of silliness being okay. And like you said, being that it is kind of canon, it does give us a reference to coffee in Magic the Gathering.
Right.
Specifically on our city world of Ravnica.
And so, yeah, what we're kind of deducing from this, because again, if we assume and accept that, things that are intentionally placed in art or in flavor text are canon, we sort of have to now place this in our own understanding of the world, right? So we now have to figure out, okay, where does coffee come from? How is it produced? How is it brewed? Like, we did an episode a couple months ago about. Maybe it was only a month ago. Gosh, the winter's been long.
You do know that we still have more months of that, Joe. Right?
I don't want to think about that.
We live in Minnesota.
I need to clutch my coffee closer. Let's try saying that 5 times fast. But we did that episode on what sort of jobs and careers fit into what guilds on Ravnica, and so it's interesting to think about sort of the supply chain of coffee in the real world and how that might be replicated on Ravnica.
Yeah. I mean, just from a simple standpoint of who brews the coffee, who grows the beans, who harvests the beans, who sells it. I mean, there is a whole wide range of people that could go into the coffee trade.
It almost seems like it passes through almost everybody's hands before it gets to, you and me, Joe Schmo's, down Tin Street,
Yeah. Tin Street Alley at the... what would the name be? Oh, we need a good coffee shop name for Ravnica.
It wouldn't be Caribou. It'd be like Glimmerpoint Stag. Boo.
Wow.
No.
You do realize that is a very Midwest reference to the Caribou.
Oh, is that only a Midwest? Dang.
Yeah, that's
okay. Starbucks is across the nation.
See, no, but that's too. I don't know what we'd have in Ravnica.
Star of Destruction Bucks. No, that's on Ixalan. I don't know. That's a really good question. We'll have to think about that. If you've got suggestions for what Ravnica's largest coffee chain is, you should send them in either in our Discord chat for Patreon members, or throw them at us on Twitter at Goblin Lore Pod #coffee.
The longest MTG coffee. Yeah, or MTG coffee.
For latte.
I was actually going to go with Shamble Shark Bucks.
Oh, that's good. That's pretty darn good. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, the question now becomes: are Simic really the ones running the coffee shops?
Oh, well, see, and,
I don't know.
So then maybe we get into that. So
let's talk about that.
Who's growing? We start with that, right? That's where the whole process begins.
Yeah.
Who's growing the beans? It's got to be the Golgari, right? There are farmers. They're the ones who produce the food substances and all this stuff.
So now I'm having problems because I'm already picturing dead bodies being the soil of my coffee beans.
You don't think dead bodies are used? I mean, they're not usually human bodies, I would hope. But like,
right, but I meant intentionally using dead bodies for soil.
I mean, Hobbes, you gotta think about this. We in the first world are just a couple 3-4 steps removed from the very nitty gritty basics, and I'm betting you there's a cow leg or something sticking out of a coffee bean ditch somewhere in Colombia.
I am very willing to buy that it is the Golgari. I think the implications of that are a little
grisly.
Yes, a little grisly.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not a great thought, that's for sure.
I mean, yes, but they are our farmers, right? I mean, they are basically our farmers. I mean, unless the Simic are doing weird things with coffee beans in the lab.
Oh, sure. Maybe they're the ones. Maybe they're the ones who sort of build in those like flavor coffees, but they actually breed the coffee beans, like crossbreed the coffee beans and a hazelnut to get hazelnut coffee.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. Like there is kind of new strains or strands. I mean, what we just learned is that they definitely are the pot growers are the Simic.
Well, yeah, obviously.
But I mean, I could see them having their hand in coffee. I mean, depending on the regulation of the coffee market, it could be made to be more addictive in the lab. I mean, that I could totally buy that. If you really want strong stuff. But like you said, bringing in flavors. I don't know. Yeah,
maybe
actually
they
creating
do like
new. Yeah,
maybe they do like sort of the how with beer they sort of do like gravity brewing to like basically pummel extra alcohol content into the beer through high pressure. Maybe it's that same sort of process that they're like using science and that sort of thing to get extra caffeine content. Although that also sounds like it all borders a little bit on is it territory.
Well,
if we're using high pressure boilers and stuff.
The high pressure boiler, what you were saying is, I was going to say they are definitely the Simic are probably finding ways to get the caffeine into the actual bean.
Oh, sure.
Versus the Is It who are finding ways to extract it from the bean in the actual
During the brewing process. Yeah.
During the the roasting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've got on our supply chain. We've got growers. We kind of skipped a step here. Are the Golgari harvesting themselves, or are they?
No.
Okay.
No, the harvesters are definitely. Wow. Sometimes your mind just goes blank.
You need more coffee.
The Green White Guild.
Selesnya.
Okay,
why do you say that?
They just seem to be more in touch with the earth, and I think that the harvesting process involves that.
Oh, sure. So rather than like just hacking down all of the plants to be processed, they might be a little more they might actually be able to talk to the plant, and the plant would like release the beans nicely and gently.
This is how we're getting our beans ethically, so I can feel better about the trade market of coffee in the Ravnica world.
That's Ravnican fair trade.
Yeah, I mean this is the ethical growing / harvesting. Like there's some stuff going on. I mean, yeah.
So
let's be honest, the Golgari are just planting. They're just throwing stuff wherever dead bodies are. It's kind of like free range coffee.
Right. Yeah, it's free range. But so when they say it's organic, do they literally mean the coffee plants are conscious? Because that also freaks me out. I think that freaks me out more than zombie bones.
When you were going with organic, I thought you were going to make a play on the word organ because they came up.
See it all. It's a nice big circle of life.
I kind of like this idea that when I die, maybe my decaying will cause somebody to get really good coffee. I'm okay with this now. I'm a lot better about this.
The Golgari are certainly they certainly help you stay at peace with life and death there.
Right.
Okay, so we've got.
Well, I don't know about the life part, but yes, definitely.
So we've got growers, we've got harvesters.
Yes.
We've got sort of strain experimenters, breeders, I guess, in the Simic.
The Simic have definitely got their hands in this.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. They're messing around with flavor profiles and all sorts of things like that.
They're the weird agricultural departments at colleges that are really nerdy about it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know that they're just real picky about bean size and shape too, because it's all those very intricate specifics.
See, and I was thinking that's where also we're going to get the Azorius involved with this. Oh. Is a weights and measures kind of standards of coffee.
Sure. Regulation and...
Yeah, regulation.
They definitely have an FDA sort of Food and Drug Administration sort of wing somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely comes into play. And I bet you they're just standing over their shoulder of every single one of these groups, just making notes on a clipboard throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
Just
until their eyebrows
fine
get
after fine.
Burned off.
Right.
By the Izzet.
Yeah, just levying fine after fine for violations, and everyone just kind of goes, whatever, it's fine.
Okay, so we've already said, so now, so we had a kind of a discussion. There was a discussion about this on Twitter a while ago. Friend of the cast, Rob, McGurginator ZX, who kind of talked about this. He said that he thinks the Gruul make the best coffee because he says that they keep it simple and keep it clean.
Interesting.
And probably have that heat with it. And I said, Izzet has made the technology to make the best cup, but Simic grow the best bean. So I add them a little bit higher up on there.
Okay.
Balefire Strix, friend Michelle, said the Rat Ghost. Because red and black are all about hedonism. So they want to enjoy oneself to the fullest, and they also provide a lot of cooking and catering for the rest of Ravnica. Creativity and selfish indulgence can really hone the best cup. Plus, they're experienced roasters.
That does make me think, as you read that does make me think that Rakdos is the guild that would most unapologetically order a pumpkin spice latte. They're I want the flavor, and I don't care what anyone thinks of me about it.
Okay.
I will wear my Uggs. I will light them on fire for all I care.
Yeah.
And I'm going to order a PSL. Yes, with whip.
Non-fat with whip.
Well, obviously, gotta
obviously,
watch your figure.
yeah. I mean, they're
Performers. Yep.
Thank
Please.
you. Now, I will say that we got some thumbs up with some up pointing fingers from Allison Lores to the Rakdos comment.
Oh. Okay, so what we said about canon, this comes close. This is like, it's not quite word of God.
Yep.
But it's like word of God adjacent.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And Lorelei Weasel _78 said the most expensive cup on Ravnica is made from beans roasted by the fiery flatulence of Rakdos himself.
Yeah. Thanks, Lorelei. We appreciate that.
Yeah. So
God.
Yeah. So I'm just saying. So there is kind of this is where I think we know that the roasting process. So we're not even to the store yet. Depending. I mean, if it's a chain, they probably are roasted off site. Now we are kind of getting into, or it could be that we have different coffee shops based on what type of coffee you want or how you want your coffee prepared.
Yeah. So I think it has to be that.
Yeah, I mean, because the Rakdos, I think that makes a really good case for they'll know how to roast beans. They're gonna want a ton of hedonism and flavor, really full. But if you just want, and somebody says this later on in the thread, is it have mastered the quintuple shot espresso? We know that this card, to begin with, said that caffeine is, the weird aunt of invention, and that is because we think of the caffeine and how it's prepared. Well, you joked about the steam power, but that really is the process by which we would do something like espresso.
Right.
So if you want a really good espresso, you are going to go to a coffee shop that has Is-It people at least working or has had the recipes perfected by the Is-It.
Yeah, I think when we get into, if we want to get into the the differences between the kinds of coffee that each would consume, I think Is-It definitely want theirs packed with caffeine.
Yep.
But also, I think they want theirs efficient. They want as much caffeine and as little liquid as possible, and they want as much of it available as possible.
And quickly,
right. So they're probably willing to pay a lot of price, a lot, to a lot of energy and literal mana energy to pump into this to get themselves the kind of, the energy. I'm saying energy a lot. I need more coffee. To get them the kind of, beverage that they need to keep fueling their experiments.
Right. And we could be talking about too, this does get into who is going to perfect different. So for instance, it could be that the Rakdos really are the roasters, whereas the Is-It, because we talked about this, we joke about their steam-powered machine. They're creating the machinery to actually then make the coffee. So the roasting process is another step. That's getting the flavor into the beans through fire to kind of, that's what you do with the beans. You have to roast them. So the Rakdos, I fully admit, they're the ones responsible, but the coffee machines themselves have to have been built by the Is-It.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, anything that's like an espresso machine, a frother, even something that just is a very high-end, the grinders themselves.
Oh, sure.
Because that seems more Rakdos.
Unless you do want to go for a very sort of down-to-earth, hippy-dippy sort of thing, and there you might just go to a classic Gruel mortar and pestle, which is really just a war club and a big stone.
You indirectly get it when you're bashing in somebody's head and there's some coffee beans with it. Yeah.
You happen to ambush somebody coming, with a big bag of beans over their shoulder.
Right.
Yeah, nice fresh grounds.
Yeah. I that's what I was thinking, that we Sample Shark Bucks probably is a very specific line. They're going to have your pumpkin spice lattes. It's going to be about having a consistent same cup every time you go in.
Mm-hmm.
But the Gruel maybe do run more of your just specialty coffee shop that is known for, like you said, everything
it's definitely
is done by
organic,
hand.
fair trade, by hand.
Yeah, the coffee itself is made by hand. It's been roasted on site.
Yep, they're definitely sort of the boutique coffee shop, I think.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. I was thinking too, Orzhov might be involved on a level that's sort of similar to the Simic and Shamble Shark Bucks, of course, where it is a little more of a chain, a little more of a consistency, but they might be the fancier high end sort of luxury cup of coffee. Maybe it's not even like a coffee shop because you can't just go in and get that cup of coffee, but the coffee that they make is like the after dinner, like with dessert coffee that you have.
Yes. Yeah.
They will only serve it at like your 5-star restaurants after you've finished your steak dinner and all that sort of stuff.
And then it'll randomly add on like an extra $10 that you weren't expecting to your bill, but you're going to pay it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a obvious surcharge that has to go on.
Right. I mean, as of right now, the only people we don't have involved in this process are who do we have left? We have the Boros, and I'm not really sure how we're going to get them involved, other than
they're definitely consumers. I mean. Well, seriously, I mean, can you imagine like getting up and doing military drills without a cup of coffee?
So like they're maybe they're the target audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's who we're marketing to.
Although to be fair, I wonder if the Boros might be more of an audience for like whatever Ravnica's version of Red Bull is. I don't know.
They're slamming Monster.
Oh yeah, they're just going ham at that.
Yeah.
Those bandoliers they have, they don't have like, mana vials or anything. It's just Red Bull.
Oh God. Yeah. And like I said, and I'm thinking, so like the Demir. They're probably meeting to conduct most of their business in one of the locations. But
do you think the Demir drink coffee actually?
No.
Because I wonder if because of their focus on like mental magic and like dragging out thoughts of people, maybe they don't consume any sort of chemical beverage or anything.
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, I could see them meeting at the coffee shop to steal the Wi-Fi.
Sure. Totally. Yep. Oh yeah, they're the people who like will not buy something and will just lean over and ask somebody for the Wi-Fi password.
Yeah,
they're like,
like blatantly, and like while showing how much money that they could be spending in there if they wanted to. Yeah.
They're the ones. Yeah. Oh yeah, the Demir definitely are the hipsters who go to the coffee shops and don't have it. They'll maybe like buy a scone some days. But are there every single day.
Oh yeah, of course. And they definitely are taking up most of the outlets.
Yep, I think that's it. We nailed it.
Who are we even missing? Who are we missing from this chain?
I don't know if we're missing anything really from the supply chain. The people who would like take the roasted coffee, I'm assuming would be, Rakdos or Gruul. Rakdos because traditionally they've been, sort of the heavy laborers of Ravnican society. Gruul because there's a lot of like, trolls and giants, so they'd be able to lift a lot of stuff. I mean, dealing with taxing and, sort of the financial regulation obviously would be the Orzhov. And Boros, like we said, probably target audience.
Yeah. The baristas, but I mean, they're the guildless.
Oh, of course. That's
let's be honest. Yeah, it's Krenko.
And we got to be fair. Krenko can brew a damn fine cup of coffee.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
I would think he incites all those rebellions.
I mean, the rebellion will be fueled by coffee.
And it will not be televised because they still haven't developed that technology yet. That's our show. You can find the podcast at Goblin Lore Pod on Twitter, or email any questions, comments, or concerns to goblinlorepodcast@gmail.com. If you would like to support your friendly neighborhood gobslugs, you can do so at patreon.com/goblinlorepod. This episode of Goblin Lore was hosted and co-written by Hobbes Q, who you can find on Twitter at HobbesQ. This episode was also co-written and engineered, edited, and produced by Joe Redeman, who you can find on Twitter at Findhorn. Our music is by Wintergatten, who you can find at wintergatten.com. That's wintergatan.com. Logo by Stephen Raphael on Twitter at Stephen Raffle. Goblin Lore is a production of Hipsters of the Coast, which you can find at hipstersmtg or hipstersofthecoast.com. Thank you all for listening, and remember, goblins, like snowflakes, are only dangerous in numbers.